Much like David is associated with the Psalms, even though there are other psalmists that we have in the text, Book of Proverbs is traditionally associated with Solomon, even though we have other names in the text as well, Agur and Lemuel, among others. So the text is associated with a number of different people. It also came together over a long time. In fact, some of the dates you will see for the book of Proverbs will range from 950 BC all the way down to 400 BC. Now, if you've been paying attention in survey class, you will know that to set the date of a book from 950 to 400 is to say sometime during the Bible being written time. I mean, that is in no way precise at all. That's like, sometime after 2000, right? I mean, it's not a precise dating as you go into this. The book is next to impossible to outline because it is a collection of wisdom sayings as you go through. And every outline I've ever seen of Proverbs is either so broad it's not accurate or so specific it's not an outline anymore. That's what happens when you have just a bunch of pithy sayings that have been grouped together. It is truly a wisdom anthology. It's drawn together over a number of different times, and these things have been put together. It falls in the category of what we know as practical wisdom. There's two kinds of wisdom. There's practical and skeptical or philosophical wisdom. This is practical wisdom. So these pithy bumper sticker kind of sayings. We do get the purpose of Proverbs at the beginning of the book. For learning, wisdom, and discipline, for understanding insightful words, for getting instruction in wise behavior, righteousness, justice, impartiality, for giving shrewdness to the unlearned, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise also hear and increase learning, and the sophisticated improve skill, for understanding proverb and puzzle, words of the wise and their riddles. So the purpose is to bring knowledge, but to bring knowledge in a way of living well, righteousness and justice, etc. A number of themes we can talk about in the book. One that is very common is fear of the Lord. Readers are commanded to fear the Lord. Remember that fear of the Lord, we talked a little bit about this before, but fear of the Lord is that recognition of position. Fear of the Lord, sometimes we soften that with revere, but I like keeping the word fear there just because there is an element of it there. It's the kind of fear you have with one in authority. It's the fear that you have of a boss, the fear that you have of a teacher, the fear that you have of one in a hierarchy position. It remembers that hierarchy. I think that's why I like that word fear. It's a way of saying that God is God and I am not. And to acknowledge that God is God is to follow God's instruction or God's Torah, or in this case, God's wisdom. So fear of the Lord, very, very common. Anytime we're talking about instruction or teaching, that's going to be pretty common. Also very common, you get the doctrine of the two ways. Over a fourth of the Proverbs deal with this notion of retribution. So good people getting good things and bad people getting bad things. Choose the good, reject the evil. That notion of Deuteronomic theology is Proverbs very Deuteronomic in that way, where the hardworking have success, the lazy are the ones who lead to failure. The wise are the ones who succeed in life, and the fools are the ones who don't. There are some exceptions noted. Proverbs 17:8 and 18:11 do seem to note that sometimes the world doesn't work that way, but most of the book of Proverbs is following that idea of the Deuteronomic theology. Also have some connections to Torah, specifically the Ten Commandments, and even more specifically, the section of the Ten Commandments that deal with humanity's relationship to each other. You might remember from survey class, the first 4 commandments deal with humanity's relationship to God, and the last 6 deal with humanity's relationship to each other. Well, there are several connections there to honoring father and mother, and murder, and adultery, and theft, and false witness. All of those are connected there in Proverbs as well. Again, part of living well, not just a matter of Torah. In Proverbs 8, wisdom itself is personified, and personified as being with God at creation. That God works all these things according to divine purpose. Wisdom provides for humanity's enjoyment. Probably what's very interesting is wisdom is portrayed as a respectable and proper woman, to be contrasted with folly, who is the loose woman ready to deceive young men with sensuous pleasures and lead them off to death. Wisdom is this proper and good woman. I think that's remarkable. When you think about how thoroughly patriarchal this society was, to have wisdom as female. Now, the word for wisdom is grammatically female, but that personification goes well beyond the grammar. It is a actual portrayed as woman there. Why that is fascinating. I don't know the answer to that. Some have suggested there was a pedagogical reason for this. If these are being taught in wisdom schools, then that's going to be boys, and the way you get boys to listen is to talk about girls. That's not a bad answer. It might very well be that simple. some have suggested that Proverbs 31 is actually an expression of that ideal woman, of King Lemuel's ideal woman, is actually a fuller unpacking of that personified wisdom that we get way back in Proverbs 8. So it's possible as well. That woman certainly does have the complete package of righteousness and hardworkingness and all those things they associate with wisdom all the way through. The opposite of wisdom is not stupidity, because remember, wisdom is not something that's simply intellectual. The opposite of wisdom is more willful disregard for appropriate order, is choosing bad directions as you go. In fact, Mistress Folly is always enticing people to abandon honorable behavior for instant gratification and immediate gratification. So it's not that they're stupid as much as they're looking to circumvent this order that God has put in place. So that's just some quick thoughts on the book of Proverbs I wanted you to be aware of.